Hey guys, Aaron here. I have a new wristwatch to show you today. It's something I really dig, and I think you guys are going to like it too. But let's do a little preamble first. When it comes to wearing wristwatches, I'm generally looking for a couple of things to come together in one timepiece. The first is comfort. Can I wear this watch for 8 to 12 hours comfortably? And the second is robustness or reliability. Can I wear this watch in any environment and not have to worry about it? Now, these are really just to name a few, but you kind of get the gist of it. The Tuna, the Seiko Tuna, presents some interesting questions when you apply those principles to it. But before we get too far into this watch itself, let's talk about a little bit of history. The Seiko Tunas were released in 1975 as mechanical watches. In 78, they were updated to include their quartz movement. Seiko, as you know, is the godfather of the quartz horological movement. The Tunas were developed as a response to Rolex and Omega and Doxa's diving watches. They implemented unique technologies that sort of did things a different way. They developed their L gasket system paired with a solid piece case construction that negated the need for a helium escape valve used by the other companies. All in all, they really are technical marvels that grossly outperform other watches rated for the same depths. So let's talk about the albacore in the room here. The SBBN015, this model, is a quartz watch, as you can see by the ticking second hand. Let me zoom in for you. I, up until this point, have been a mechanical watch fan only, and I still, to some degree, continue to be so. So what makes this particular watch different from a $10 Timex? Well, the movement in the SBBN015 is the 7C46 quartz movement. It is one workhorse of a watch movement. The C46 is used only in the Prospects line of watches, their professional line. It is constructed with all metal parts and operates on a 7-jewel gear train, allowing the hands to move in perfect synchronization with the electronic pulse from the crystal. The high torque relative to other watch movements allows it to operate more efficiently and very accurately. Out of this watch, it's reasonable to expect plus or minus fractions of a second per month. And additionally, due to the low drain electronics in it, I would expect 5 or more years per battery. When the voltage begins to drop, you would notice the second hand ticking 2 seconds at a time as a low voltage meter. All in all, it's just a very efficient movement. It was designed to be used in real commercial diving environments, and as a result, it really needed to be tough. This alleviates some of my snobbery when it comes to mechanical versus quartz. So, let's talk about some specs of this particular watch. From edge to edge, including the shroud, is 47.5 millimeters. The thickness is 15.2. Lug to lug here, this measurement, is 46.7. The lugs, as you can see, are shrouded. This really aids in this watch fitting comfortably. And then the lug width for the bracelet is 22 millimeters. In terms of weight, the head of the watch only is 3.4 ounces, and it's 6.4 ounces on the steel bracelet. So let's talk about fit. Today, I'm wearing my Rolex Explorer, so let me pop this sucker off. The SBBN015 is a massive watch. Normally, I don't think that watches this size wear very comfortably, but as you can see, let me back out. On my 7.25-inch wrist, it really fits quite well, and it's due largely to those shrouded lugs. It doesn't extend over the bones of your wrist in this direction, and it really allows a smaller wristed person to be able to confidently wear a piece like this. My caveat to that statement is that the Tuna sits very high. As you can see, it sits off of the wrist very high. And I have found that case height is typically the dimension that matters most when it comes to damaging my watch. The case height, or the amount that it sticks off of my wrist, is going to be what makes it slam into drawer jambs and shelves and stuff like that. So let's talk about the dial, the bezel, and the crystal a little bit here. The dial of the SBBN015 is covered by a double-domed hardlex crystal. I love domed crystals. I love the way they catch and distort the light. I love the way they look. Now, there are companies that make replacement sapphire crystals if you wanted to mod your watch. So that's an option too. Hardlex, this is a hardlex crystal, is a hardened mineral crystal that Seiko uses. It's a couple points softer on the Mohs scale than sapphire, but it's much less brittle. And the double domed really strengthens it when it comes to impact resistance. I wouldn't rush into replacing the crystal with sapphire or anything else. I really love the look of this crystal. I think it looks really, really cool. So prospect watches were conceptualized, as I said earlier, for professional use, thus the pro spec. An important consideration of this would be legibility of the dial. The SBBN uses, let me see if I can get it to focus on it here, literal mountains of lume at the hour indicators. The borders of each hour marker are polished, as well as the borders of the loomed hands, which just adds for really, really great legibility. At 3 o'clock, there is a day-date window that's also large and easily read. On the version I have here, you have the Japanese and the English day wheels. So I have it set to Japanese. I just think it's kind of cool to honor the lineage of this watch, but you would have the option to run this on the English day. The weekend, also on the day wheel, the weekend days are blue and red. I believe Saturday is red and Sunday is blue, or it's the other way around, I can't remember. So one other thing is the lume. For those of you that have owned and like Seiko watches, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Seiko lume is notoriously amazing. It's super, super bright, and it burns for a long, long time. Bear with me for 1 second. Let me shut these lights off and see if I can show you an example. So you can see it just glowing super green, super bright. So I would not worry about the lume on this one. So the bezel. The bezel here is kind of interesting. The shroud obstructs from 9 to noon and then from 3 to 6. And what this does is it gives you 2 spots on the bezel for you to grab and rotate. It protects it from being knocked, protects it from being damaged, and all in all, it's a good system. Whether you're right-handed or you're left-handed, you'll be able to grab that bezel fine. It's a 120 click bezel. It's very, very positive in terms of its clicking action, and it would be very effective and very, very useful for diving, for timing your dive, or even making sure you don't run over on your parking meter, which is what I normally use it for. The bracelet on this watch is a 22 millimeter oyster-ish style bracelet. Stamped, oyster-ish I say. Stamped on the inside of the clasp, it says, let me get it. It says titanium plus stainless steel minus B. My understanding of this is that the clasp itself is titanium, whereas the rest of the bracelet is stainless steel. It's comfortable. It's extremely solid. A couple of the gripes I've had with previous Seiko watches have been really 2 things. Primarily, the cheaper ones pull my arm hair like crazy. And on one specific case with the Marine Master 300, I found that the links on this dimension were so wide that they would poke out rather than sit flat on your wrist. The clasp here is a fold-over push-button clasp, but it also has Seiko's ratcheting clasp mechanism. So if you lift up on the fold-over part, it will extend. So that's great for like a micro adjustment if you need it to, if it's feeling a little tight or something like that, or it's good to get it over a wetsuit, which is how it was intended. It's not really as elegantly designed or executed as Rolex or Omega do it on their diving watches, but it's very, very functional. So to kind of round up, the Seiko Tuna, if this is a style of watch that you're into, I really can't suggest one more. They make a bunch of versions of them, more expensive, less expensive. There are baby tunas, all of that stuff. They are unique, they are purpose-driven, and you are not likely to run into somebody else wearing one unless you have a bunch of watch friends like I do. One thing that's worth pointing out is that the SBBN015 has been discontinued in favor of the 031. The 031 has a little different handset. It's got the Seiko Diashield, so the actual metal will be a little darker and more resistant to scratches. And they've reformulated the Lume some so that it's brighter. I really can't imagine anything that burns brighter than this watch, so that must be incredible to behold. This particular version, as you see, it can be had for around $1,000 used. Maybe a little bit less. It'll just kind of depend on what the going market is for them on Watch Recon. WatchRecon.com is where I suggest that you look for them. So I hope you guys enjoy it. This would be a watch that would serve you very, very well. And as always, I'm very excited to see what you guys think of it. Thanks a lot, guys. See ya.